Really happy to be able to talk about this today. We've got 4 great companies represented, and we are going to be drilling down into the issue of how do I get employees involved when they're too busy? How do I engage employees who are already too busy? So we've got Aegis Media, and you know what, for let's say, I'm lousy at introducing people. I need to. Self-introduction? Yeah, we could do the self-introduction to make it casual. That's what I had in mind. So. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why I'm asked to do this ever. Thomson Reuters is going to be represented here by Sheila Snap. Aegis is by Tracy Pierce. Lockheed Martin by John, and I'm in your way, John. So that's okay. And then JPMorgan Chase. Spring Lacy. Okay. Not Lacy Spring. And that's confusing because I couldn't find her in my email anywhere. I'm thinking, Lacy? Where's Lacy? Lacy's not coming out anywhere. That's Spring. That's very cool. Okay. Good. So let's start with when we get to your part in the panel, and each person is going to present a little bit about the program and specifically what they're doing to engage busy people, expose them to employee volunteering and activity like that in where they work. Why don't you just a little bit more about your role at that point in case we didn't read it leading up to it. Okay, does that sound fair? All right, so let's get grooving here. So corporate volunteering, I mean, we have talked about it. I have no issue. I hope you feel that way in terms of what the benefits are, why engagement's important, what happens. So let's do this some more. Okay. First of all, we're talking about engaged employees, and as Michael mentioned last session, this is the one conference where people obsess about that issue, which is great for me. In case you don't know who I am, by the way, I Realize Worth, I represent Realize Worth, and we're a firm that works with companies on this specific issue. How do you get employees engaged in corporate citizenship programs, sustainability, workplace giving, employee volunteering, that kind of thing? They're very busy people, they have opportunities to volunteer and give other places. Why in the world would they do it through where they work? They're already investing their lives, 60, 80 hours a week working for you. Why are they going to, practice civic engagement for you as well? So you've got to give them a good reason why, and it's got to be an engagement program, and all that goes along with that, and that's what we focus on. So here, this is a Prezi, in case you haven't seen one before. They're kind of neat. It's free online if you want to use a free version. There's a paid version too, but this one, you can do all of this, and they're easy to use. So that's just, you can take that home with you later. But you'll get the URL to this. Make sure everybody gets the URL to this. And so what you're going to see here, there's a lot more information if you want to go back and look through it later on. Okay, so but it'll be available to everybody. So don't worry about capturing everything in note taking. So talking about engaged employees and LBG group. No, LBG associates. I'm getting everything wrong this morning. What's that? It's, yeah, right. I already said I'd rather be napping, so Linda does a lot of this kind of work as well, and so she knows these numbers cold. She may have a little bit different numbers. These are from, I think, 2009, but most employees who work in your workplace are not really that engaged, right? I don't know if that's going to come as a shock to you. But only 1 in 3 employees are what they would call engaged. An engaged employee is someone who gets up, goes to bed Sunday night and thinks, I can't wait to go to work tomorrow. I really like going to work. I think I'll set my alarm clock a little bit early. I can beat the traffic, I can get there early, train there, and I get a head start on things. And I just, I'm very excited about my project. And so, and they're the kind of people who call home and make excuses for staying late, and they just really like what they do, okay? Most people you work with are not that person, all right? Most of the people you work with fall in the disengaged category. 1 in 5 are disengaged. Okay, so there's sort of 2 levels of disengaged. There's mildly disengaged and there's actively disengaged. Actively disengaged are the people who are trying to undermine it. I mean, they just don't. The 4% of employees, apparently, according to this survey by Scarlett, something another. Again, it's in this URL. You can check it out later. Are stealing paper clips and pens and notepads. And, when they go to the bathroom, they're kicking behind the toilet to break the plumbing. They just really, they resent having to come here. They hate who they're working with, but they're being paid too much to leave. And they just, they hate it. Okay, and everybody else kind of falls between those two. What we want to do is we want to see people move from that mildly disengaged, actively hostile, up to the engaged. And I'm saying, we're saying employee volunteering, these kind of pro-social behaviors in the workplace are a great way to do that. Okay, but there's a cost to this. Again, Gallup estimated, this was a couple years ago, in the UK, it's like 64 billion. In the United States, of course, bigger, 350 billion. I think the latest stat is closer to over $400 billion. That's what it costs. Plumbing is expensive, and so when they break it, you gotta fork out for it. So they performed this meta-analysis. They decided, let's not just be negative, let's be positive. So big meta-analysis, 26 countries, all these different companies. And they discovered that for companies where employees were more engaged than not, profitability jumped by 16%, customer loyalty is higher, quality increased by 60%, which is great, especially if you're making something that is critical, like road safety type things like seatbelts or whatnot. But there's more of a study here if you want to click on that URL. So engagement's important, but the reason we promote this in the workplace is because it's a great way to develop your employees. Employees are healthier. People who volunteer are healthier. They have less stress, less heart disease, they weigh less, they're just, that doesn't mean they're smaller people, they're just like more fit. And that costs companies less, okay? You can attract better employees. This is all stuff you've heard before. If you read Howard Schultz's article in Harvard Business Review, he names taking 10,000 of his partners to New Orleans as the most important thing that saved his company when they were on the brink of crisis. Remember when they closed like 600 Starbucks stores? That and having Bono show up was really important. That's a picture of them in New Orleans. But they did volunteering. They went back and they said, let's remember what we're about. We're about investing in our communities. We're about being part of our communities. And focus completely on the why of the work they did. Not just the what. Didn't hunker down and say, we need to be more productive. We need to be more efficient. We need to streamline. We need to be lean. He focused on the why we show up to work every day. And he thinks that's why the company was saved. So corporate volunteering, there's a lot of good reasons for corporate volunteering. You probably know a whole bunch of things that we've got this list. So like I said before, you can, when you click on those videos and whatnot, they'll all play for you later. But here's the question. Volunteering is great for creating engagement. That's what we're saying, right? But your employees will say they're too busy. So you get employees who are too busy, but statistically, they're not as engaged as they could be. So how do you get them to volunteer in order to become more engaged so they won't see themselves as so busy? So the number one reason that employees will tell you who do not volunteer, why they don't volunteer, is because they'll say, I don't have time, right? I want to, but I don't have time. That could be very true. Who has time, right? None of us have time. Except for, I think it's 20 million hours in solitaire in the workplace. That's what it was last year. It's some crazy, huge hour, right? So employees are too busy. Once they volunteer, they show up and they volunteer just once, and you ask them, what kept you from volunteering? They'll say, no one asked me. Completely different answer. No one asked me. Because after they have the experience, they perceive it differently. So if I've never tried it, I perceive myself as too busy. Once I've tried it, I think, why didn't anybody ask me? Because this is not bad. I don't mind this. Okay, so that kind of makes sense, right? All right. So this is what we want to answer. We want to get to this conundrum. How do we engage people who perceive themselves as too busy? So when you go, they will say, nope, sorry, can't, too busy. So there are a couple of ways, 3 ways that we're going to look at. One is micro-volunteering. Okay? How many people are familiar with micro-volunteering? Right. What is your familiarity with it, please? Yes. Because you were the only one looking at me when I asked that question.
Well, it's small bursts of activity, so it's something that an employee can do in 5-10 minutes, usually via computer or very easily. It's not something they have to extend a lot of effort to do.
All right. Perfect. You know more than Boston College Center for Corporate Citizenship, who last week in Phoenix, I'm not telling you details of the school, they had a bicycle built in the hallway. That's kind of a cool thing. But they called it micro-volunteering. So as soon as I saw it, I said, that's not micro-volunteering. That's cool, but this is the wrong group to get that title wrong. But it was okay. They were actually little bikes too, so it worked out. They were tricycles. So they pulled that out. They pulled it off. It was okay. They're just little bikes, so it's micro-volunteering. And they did this bike. But that is not what micro-volunteering is. Micro-volunteering is what she said. Okay. So 90 seconds, a few minutes, slice at a time. It's usually crowdsourced, meaning you're not the one solving the problem. You're part of the group solving a problem. It's usually online, and there are a couple of cool ways that you can do it. During the Haiti, has everybody heard of the Extraordinaries or Spark? Some people, okay. That is probably the preeminent micro-volunteering platform out there. I don't know of anybody else who's doing true straight-up micro-volunteering. It can be remote volunteering or virtual volunteering. Any other micro-volunteering sites that I should know about? They've developed a really tiny little platform, and they're experts in the field. So in Haiti, one of the things was people got, during the crisis, the earthquake, people got disconnected from each other, right? So they had lots of photos from some of the groups that were there, photos of people who were lost, or the kids who had lost their families. And what they did was, in order to make that database searchable, they had to tag all of those photos. Girl, little girl, 5, red dress, that, yada, yada, yada. They had to tag all of them. So when you went to search, what was she wearing last, how old is she, you could find them. And they used micro-volunteering to do it. They found hundreds and hundreds of people. Very, very cool. And all people had to do is look at a picture, oh, here comes my plane. Like, it happens like that. And then they were off. And they were doing it, because they were doing it with everybody, they were able to get it done in hours instead of years. So it's kind of a cool thing. On-site volunteering, this one we're a lot more familiar with. There's a group called, I've got some brochures, Feed My Hungry Children. We're going to feed my starving children. We're going to learn more about that. But it's a great way to introduce people to being part of global solutions by just going down the elevator, doing something for a little bit, and then coming back. Again, what we want to do is show people there are ways to make a contribution that fit inside your schedule, and then once that happens, they evaluate the proposition in an entirely different way. And then there's remote volunteering. I get a call from a guy about this last year. Dan, you know his name? No, because I asked you, know. I already had this conversation this spring, so yeah. Wait, what? Did I get that one? No, because I thought of it before I said it in front of everybody. Spring. Okay. And he told me about this program. It's very, very cool. And Spring will describe it more, but you know, people at every level of the company can tutor kids in anywhere in the city, but inner city in particular, and have built this relationship with them. These kids, he was telling me, the teachers, they get giddy with excitement waiting for the phone call to come in for the tutoring. So we're looking forward to hearing more about that. So these are all ideas that we can introduce into our workplace. Very simple. Last session I talked about minimum viable footprint, meaning what is the simplest, most streamlined, least unencumbered program that you can deliver with the least number of intermediaries and collaborators that will be successful, meaning people will participate and you'll achieve the goals of the program. These all represent that. So if you're looking for a way to say, I think volunteering is great, and you want to show a big win fast, these are some good ways to do it, as well as introducing busy people to volunteering. So without any further ado or introduction, we're going to hear from Tracy, I think. All right. I'll keep up. Unless you want it, because you're through it. No. Just look at me sternly if I get time.
I'm Tracy Pierce and I work at Aegis Media. I am an global CR integration manager, so I work across many different services and brands within our company. As a global, get back to my first page here. Okay, we are one of the world's largest media marketing communication agencies. We have over 12,000 marketing professionals within 80 countries, as I said. You might not have heard of us before, but you see our work every day. We expose you to 500 advertising impressions every day, and 20% of those we organize. have to excuse me, I'm a little nervous.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't do worse than I did today.
All right, we specialize in connecting brands with their consumers at the right place in the right time. As a global company, we take our responsibilities seriously. Our CSR strategy is called Future Proof, and we aim to do well as a business as well as do good under this framework. One of our Future Proof goals was to share 1% of our time giving it back to charity by the year 2015. And that's equivalent to 16 hours per employee in the year 2015. Sorry. And 6 hours per employee this year. So we looked at our employment engagement survey and we asked employees what they thought about an initiative to help us support that goal. And they told us that, you can say that. They wanted to do something and they wanted to feel a part of something. So we also found out that CSR and sustainability were key drivers for our engagement and commitment with employees. We also found it was one of the essential pieces of attracting and retaining the industry's best talent, especially millennials. And that 50% of our employees expected to use their skill set and knowledge while volunteering. In addition, 3 of the most important things they told us what they wanted was that the initiative were to be visible. So they want the ability to see what their colleagues are doing around the world. 2, they want it to be supportive. They want to know that line managers are wholeheartedly embracing it and getting involved with it. And 3, they'd like a little bit of recognition in the way of some incentives and awards that stir and spur competition. Nothing sells better at our company than bragging rights, so everyone wants to win. So we realized that our staff is spread out widely geographically with a long tail of offices. The bulk of our employees sit at their desk all day and they're very computer savvy. We took all of this information to our CEO, Nigel Morrison. He had a vision. What if we created a platform where NGOs could come visit with our employees and we could exchange with them our immediate expertise and knowledge? So we started a strategic partnership with Global Giving and with Spark. Global Giving is a nonprofit that hosts thousands of NGOs at their online marketplace to help them get funding on grassroots projects. And as Chris mentioned, Spark is a nonprofit based out of San Francisco, and they developed the first micro-volunteering technology. So together, the 3 of us were able to come up with our own platform called Aegis Media's Global Giving Time. And this is our own 100% digital volunteering platform. And it's a great, innovative way for employees to share their time, knowledge, and expertise with NGOs, globally and locally, all from the comfort of their desk. So how does it work? Well, employees log in, create a profile, join a team. They input what their causes are they're passionate about, such as world hunger, children education. They input their skill sets that let an NGO know what they can offer up. So it could be anything from HR and finance to search engine optimization, blogging, web work design, a whole host of services that we offer. And then the system takes those inputs and the NGOs and matches them up with the employees to offer those services. So an employee can answer a challenge that asks them to help with brainstorming or something, or they can decide not to answer the challenge and move on to another challenge. It's totally up to them. And they can spend 2 minutes on the site, they can spend up to 2 hours. A lot of people go home and work on the weekends on the site as well, so it carries over pretty well. So what we found out were the services that we offer. We started to find even more services being offered after a 6 month soft launch. Marketers are a tough crowd to reach. They want to be the first in the know. They want to be the early adopters. You can't just throw something out there and say, hey, everybody, try this out. So we put it out word of mouth and let it spread from there, and found that they were doing a lot more than just some of the services that we offer. They're also offering up copywriting, social media advice, and a whole lot more research. You get the picture of what we're offering. Some of the positive feedback we received from employees who started using the platform were like Sharon in the network buying group. Given my crazy schedule, I find Global Giving Time a nice and convenient way to volunteer. And that's exactly what we wanted to hear from employees who are very busy, could take a few minutes of their time, volunteer online, and that it was easy and convenient. Just like Facebook, when you go to check out your status during your lunch hour, you can spend 5 minutes anytime. So what did we find after that? Well, we sent out a survey after 6 months to the users of the site just to get some more feedback on what they thought. 56% of the employees using the site found an increased commitment towards the company, and 74% found a positive change in the behavior and attitude at work. So I guess nobody was kicking toilets. So anyway, that was an interesting story you told. We also found that the platform does help support the people agenda and our CSR goals that we set for ourselves. The platform, most importantly, will live on in the organization over time, and we can invite our clients, media owners, and consumers to join us on the platform as well when we're ready, thereby enabling them to get back and do good. So, like with any new thing, there are bumps in the road, and we had a few. We do continue our partnership closely with Global Giving and with Spark to improve the site and tweak it as we go along. 3 things that we had to address off the bat. The first was culture. Although we expected most employees to be sitting behind their desk, we realized that some of our services, such as entertainment, sports marketing, and events, these are marketers who go to NASCAR and work on all kinds of stuff. They're in the field all the time, and when they volunteer, they want to be in the field volunteering, so they don't gravitate naturally to the platform, which is okay, which brings me to point 2. We have not promoted Global Giving Time as a replacement for anything. It's actually a tool in addition to what employees are already doing. So if they care about the elementary school down the street and that's where they like to volunteer, they want to fundraise, that's fine. We're not trying to discourage it. We're just offering them another tool to help encourage people to volunteer who don't have the time to do so. So no one has an excuse anymore to say they don't have the time with the platform. And thirdly, the site is in English. Although we are in 80 countries and most of those countries speak English as a second language, when they give their media expertise and knowledge, they want to do it in the native tongue. So, we had to start thinking of ways to help get around that. We couldn't create the site with, 50 different languages. So we started offering employees the opportunity to nominate NGOs that they would like to have up on the site that speak their language and that are local to them. So we were able to address that problem. My favorite thing about Global Giving Time is that I get real-time results any day, any hour that I want. I don't have to wait until the end of the year when the annual report comes out with all the good stuff. I can go on the site and see how many employees were signed up, how many employees were participating. There's a $sign given for the value of time spent on the site. I can see what skill sets employees are using most, what causes they work mostly with, whether it be in the area of children, education, etc. NGOs are able to give employees the thumbs up or an award of excellence if they really like their answers. So I can see who's got the most of those going on. We can host a competition based on that. It's just a wealth of information and data you can pull from the site at any given time. So
I have a quick question about the salaries on there. Sure. Is that just, do the people that are doing the volunteering on there, do they have to say this is how much time I spent on there, or does it just track how much time they're logged into the system, or how does that work?
Actually, that's a good question, because I used to ask the same thing, how are we tracking with time? There's actually a formula that they use. I believe it's 8 minutes per challenge completed. So whether you spent 1 minute or 1 hour, they assign an 8-minute time frame. Maybe Spark could come up with a way to actually time how long someone's there, but that doesn't mean they're giving an answer for that long. They would just be sitting for a long time. So at this point, we prefer to go by how many challenges have been completed. So by knowing that 500 answers have been given or a few thousand, we know what people are doing. And then by the number of people and the activity that we're seeing, we can get a pretty good idea of what we think the value is there. I mean, obviously, if you work in finance, the value of your hourly time spent might be different than what marketers get paid per hour.
Quick question.
Yes.
Do you track the time of day they're logged on? I mean, just in case people are spending 4 hours doing working hours trying to do this?
No, we're on the honor system.
Okay.
We've had that with a lot of things as well with volunteering, and we just realize, obviously, if somebody has thousands and thousands of challenges done in their own probation at work, we need to address that. But no, I think we pretty much just, we don't block any sites from our employees, being that we're marketers. We want them out there in social media, so we let that go. We just trust that.
How do you identify the challenges that the employees are seeing?
We first, when we started this with Global Giving, being that they have the database of NGOs, worked with them to come up with questions that they would present to NGOs for us as marketers. Because we obviously can't be giving them, advice on other things outside of our skill set, unless I just happen to have a hobby of some kind that I'm great at and want to offer that advice on. We gave them questions and helped them determine what it is that these NGOs who are applying for the platform, because it's not right for every NGO either. It's also a matter of, do they want media marketing advice and communications help? If they don't need that, then we're probably not the right partner for them, and they may not want to spend time and resources on being on our site, offering up those questions for help. Basically, they're asking for help and guidance. To us, they might, be better suited for another type of organization. But they do have a questionnaire, and they are responsible for staying on top of what they're asking for.
Those are good questions.
Yeah.
Anyone? Full disclosure, I realize that we didn't work with Davis, but we do help with implementation of this. If the company wants to roll it out, we also design the process for that with the company. So when I say I really like it, I think it's very cool. That's my background. But she likes it too. So.
I do. I love it. I go on every day. In fact, every time someone signs up on the platform, I get an email generated from the system telling me, that there is somebody there. So it just kind of gives me a little every time.
And for you, that's pretty cool, because most CSR managers are in their little dreary office thinking, doing anything, but you, boom, 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 right?
I can see.
There
and I sent out an email this week. We host a volunteer challenge internally. It's just a competition in the region, and this is included as part of the weights to win the challenge. So the minute I sent out the challenge email, people were joining up on the site. So I thought that was really cool. But anyway, again, real-time results, very important, and we're still developing it. I mean, a lot of this stuff every day is getting added to the site. So in closing, just 3 things I'd like to leave you with about Global Giving Time. And that's 1, it has increased our employee engagement and commitment. And 2, it is supporting the people agenda and the CSR goals that we've set. And 3, it's putting us on a path to achieving the 1% time sharing that we're looking to do globally by 2015. So if you have any interest in the platform, I have more information, and I kind of like it.
And we'll chit-chat some more once everybody's done. That's great. Thank you. Okay, cool. Let's go to Thomson Reuters.
All right. I'm Sheila Snap with Thomson Reuters. I'm a community relations specialist there. And I'm going to talk to you I'll give you a little background about our company, in case you don't know who we are, and our volunteer program, and then share with you how we created a partnership a couple of years ago with a nonprofit called Feed Us Heritage.
Thank you. Yeah.
And what do I do?
Just press that.
Okay. And it's going to dance for me, right?
Yep.
This is cool.
Right?
It is pretty cool. Okay, so Thomson Reuters is a technology information company. You can see our markets listed there. We have 55 employees in more than 100 countries. Our headquarters is here in New York. I'm based in Eagan, Minnesota, which is a suburb of St. Paul, and we have about 7,000 employees in that location. So our volunteer program, our structure program was launched in 1999. So to encourage our employees to be out working in the communities. We do offer paid time off to volunteer. And we, as most companies, have a very small community relations staff. So how do we really, what are our vehicles for delivering our volunteer program? We created a volunteer action network a couple of years ago, and that's made up of representatives from our major locations across the globe, who are really our governing body of our program. And then we have volunteer councils. Many of those van locations have volunteer councils, but smaller locations also create volunteer councils, and those are the people on the ground actually doing the work. If you do sign up to create a volunteer council at your location, part of what you commit to is supporting 4 quarterly focus areas during the year. Community is Q1, environment is Q2, education Q3, and world hunger is Q4. And world hunger is the one that I would say all of our locations really get behind during the week of October 16th, which is October 16th is World Food Day, and that's an internationally recognized awareness day that we, no matter where you're located, it's something that we can all really get behind. So when we at Egan thought about World Food Day and having 7,000 employees, what can we do to support that awareness day? The things we had to look at was, meeting, of course, the theme of world hunger, finding something that could accommodate a large number of employees. Of course, we're not going to accommodate 7,000, but how many can we really accommodate with our event? Offering the project on site with shorter shifts to accommodate employee schedules. Employees are busier than ever today. It's difficult to get them to go out and take the time to leave work and do an event. So we wanted to do something on site in a small 1 to 2 hour time frame. And then, of course, does the project offer measurable results? We need to be able to report back on the impact this event would provide. So we did our research and came up with a local nonprofit. Actually, they have a location about 10 minutes from our campus by the name of Feed My Starving Children. It's a nonprofit that ships packaged meals that are specially formulated for malnourished children to other countries around the world. And the meals are packaged by volunteers on 2-hour shifts every day. At their sites, you can sign up anytime to just go in there for 2 hours, pack your meal, and leave. But they also have a mobile pack program, so they bring the event to you. What does that mean? They bring the equipment, they bring the materials, everything to your location. We as a company provided the funding to bring the organization in to do the events. We paid for the meals, we paid for the staff to come in for the day, we provided the space, and we provided the volunteers. And what did I do?
You did something cool where you did, yeah.
Okay. So I'm a visual person, so I'm going to show you a video of last year's event, and then we'll talk about the event afterwards.
It's playing somewhere. Hold on. Sorry.
Building here in Egan with a really exciting site activity that's going on. Feed My Starving Children. Over 500 people have decided to participate in this one-day event that is packaging meals to be sent all around the world to take care of hungry children. What a great effort. It's unbelievable to see all the people that you can see in the background here just working. They work for 2-hour shifts. They stuff all the meals that they can stuff in the time. It's very organized, very orderly, and you know what I think it demonstrates the most is the kind of giving that this community has. I'm really proud of the people of Egan, the community here on the campus, and as the site leader here, one of the co-site leaders, I'm very honored to be part of it. I see all the activity, all the people that volunteer, all the effort they put in. I want to thank all of them for all the work that they are putting in, not only for this effort, but all the type of voluntary efforts that happen every day, the ones we know about and the ones that we don't even know about. What a giving community. I'm telling you, I'm just proud to be part of it. Thank you, everyone.
All across Thomson Reuters this week, employees are participating in World Food Day. That means in people from Carlsbad, California to New York City, and as well in London and around the world. And everybody is really trying to do all that they can, as much as they can, to draw attention to the problem of world hunger. And here at Thomson Reuters, our employees are one of the groups that are leading the pack. And this is our way of saying we're partners with the communities where we live and work. We care about the problems that we're experiencing as a world community, and that we believe that we are empowered to do something about it. And we're doing that this week.
All right, so that was our event. Benefits and challenges. So benefits, employees were able to come in, participate on site. They didn't have to go get in their car and drive somewhere, volunteer and come back or whatever. So there were no transportation, time of travel issues there. A very reasonable time commitment. It was a 2-hour commitment, and that includes an orientation, a quick training, packing, and then a debrief at the end. At the end of each 2-hour shift, the staff was really great about letting the employees know exactly how many meals they packed, and it became a competition during the day. Because as second shift came in, we shared with them what first shift did, so they had to do that. Then third shift came in, we shared with them what first and second shift. So it was really cool because it did become a competition. Instant visual results. Again, you could see at the end of the day the boxes of meals going out on the pallets that were going to help feed hungry children. It provided an opportunity for our employees to partner with the company in a local nonprofit and supporting a global issue. And I think that global issue was really key because all of our employees knew that other employees across the world were doing something that week to focus on that one particular issue. Employees felt part of a bigger initiative, and Feed My Starving Children was able to have meals produced at a very minimal cost. The only cost to them was probably salary for their staff to come in, and we had a staff of 4 that came in and assisted us for the day. So the challenges, the first year that we did this in 2010, Feed My Starving Children did not have an online registration system. It was a nightmare, to be honest with you. When we opened up registration, we had all the slots, all 420 slots filled in 2 hours, and phone calls kept coming in, and emails kept coming in. So I had to bring a temp in to manage that process because I didn't have the time to dedicate to it. So by the time we had everybody slotted, got back to everybody telling them, sorry, I couldn't get you in, but we'll put you on the wait list. Well, then the changes start coming in. Oh, I signed up for this, but I can't, So anyway, they did implement an online registration system last year, which was cool. They provided a link to us, employees went online, they registered. If they needed to cancel out, they could do it. So it was totally in the hands of the employee, which saved us a lot of time and a lot of stress. Limited space to accommodate employees. As you could see on the video, we were kind of in a cramped space. They require that you depending upon how many meals you're going to put together, they'll tell you the space requirement. And we just didn't have, the big, large space that we wanted, but we made do with what we had. You just make do. It has to be a concrete floor because you're bringing jacks in with pallets and heavy meals. You need to be near a kitchen area because you're going to wash all the utensils at the end of the day, and an orientation room. So space was really an issue. But we brought them back last year and we did it again, and everybody just knew the drill, and it worked out well.
Yeah. You were saying that the organization, the nonprofit, didn't have an online registration tool, but does Thomson Reuters have its own volunteer tool that you utilize to register volunteers for projects?
We didn't last year.
You did not, so you didn't have one internally either?
We didn't. Okay. No, so it was all done via paper, Excel spreadsheet, manually. The other challenge was, we filled all those spots the first year in 2 hours. We had 7,000 employees. We had lots of employees wanting to get involved, but we committed to 1 day, 4 shifts, 120 people per shift. So what we did last year is, as soon as I received approval to do the event again, we went out to their site location and grabbed all the open slots that we could, so we could say to employees, you have your choice, you can come here. If you didn't make it here, their location is 10 minutes away. Get your coworkers together, get a group together, go on over, volunteer, and come back. And that didn't work as well as we thought it would, and we're going to do it again next year and really promote that as an opportunity for departments or groups to get out together, but some people do it sometimes. So our results in 2010, we had 480 employees, packaged 6,920 meals, which fed 292 hungry children in Haiti 1 meal a day for a year. Last year, as you can see, our numbers increased. Our VP did mention that last year's meals were supposed to go to Africa to support the famine. What Feed My Starving Children had to do last year was take a lot of meals from locations right away and get those meals to Africa. So our meals went to give back to a site in Mexico that they had some of their meals taken away so they could get them to Africa right away. So we replenished some meals that were supposed to have gone to Mexico. And that's
A couple things. Meal, what are the packets? 10 cents each?
24 cents.
24 cents each. Have to do a basic 100,000.
$24,000.
Right. And you need a forklift on site.
Need forklifts on site.
And
concrete floor.
right. And they bring everything in. And these meals are designed for people who don't get to eat all the time, because you cannot give them just anything to eat. So this needs to be palatable for their digest.
Yes.
Okay. Plus, they distribute through faith-based networks as well as other networks, but they do not limit, as you can tell by maybe the name on the Feed My Starving Children, they're not limiting the people who receive it to any affiliation of any kind. You just have to be included. Any other questions, guys? Yeah?
Sheila, first of all, I want to say that Thomson Reuters makes lunch lady hats look sexy. Thanks for bringing that back into that. But I did want to ask you, you mentioned briefly that having the off-site option did not work as well as you had hoped. If you could talk a little bit more about that, and did you find that by bringing this event on location, did you feel that that was really the reason why you had such an overwhelming response and participation?
Absolutely. Why the off-site option didn't work well, part of it was I don't think we promoted it as well as we could have. Looking back on it, I think we should have promoted it as, hey, get your co-workers together and get a group to go out, so it's not just me on my own or whatever. I think if we would have promoted it in the right way, we probably would have gotten groups to go out. But it's all about the on-site. It really is, to say, you know what, it's 5 minutes to 10, I have the 10 to noon shift, walk downstairs to the orientation room, do your orientation, put on your beautiful cap, go downstairs, pack meals, find out what we packed, and go back to work in 2 hours. It's really slick.
Have we considered shortening the shift to allow more employees on site?
It's their requirement. It's a 2-hour shift. It's a Feed My Starving Children requirement.
I could offer up there's a spin-off of that organization, which is Kids Against Hunger. And if it's your site that you're doing the program at, you can stipulate the shifts and you'll train as many times as you want to rotate.
And do they have a mobile pack unit, right? And across the United States, or are they primarily?
I think they do have multiple locations, not as extensive as Feed My Starving.
What's the name again for people?
Kids Against Hunger.
Kids Against Hunger.
It's a spin-off of that organization.
Yeah.
One more question? We can ask more later. All right. Next up is going to be John.
Again, my name is John Lyles. I'm with Lockheed Martin. Tell you a little bit about our company. We have 123,000 employees. We're based out of Bethesda, Maryland, which is right outside of the DC area. Most people think that we just make weapons, but we do a whole lot more. We obviously build airplanes, satellites, GPS systems, radars, missile controls, space systems. But one thing, I came from the United Way side, which is kind of ironic that I'm on the corporate side, because I was with United Way for eight years, managing Fortune 500 employee giving campaigns, and worked with several of you before. And I thought it was kind of ironic when I moved over to the Lockheed side of it, the corporate side. The lady that replaced me, she was there for 44 years and worked for United Way. I've been chasing her for 5 years and she never gave me a call back, so it's kind of ironic that I took her job. But the first, I still haven't met her yet. Most of me had a luncheon and she still ran from me. So Lockheed coming in, just to give you guys a little background, coming in is the culture is different there at Lockheed Martin. And coming in from a nonprofit side was very intimidating. It was very overwhelming, I'll be honest with you, for the first 6 months. There's a lot to learn. We have about 523 offices, we're in 46 different states, and we have 4 business units, and we have several business lines. And the first thing they tasked me with is I need you to centralize the volunteer program. I need you to implement a volunteer system, and you have 6 months to do it. So looking at the structure of the business, and that's one of the key things that I realized. Yeah, that's not really good. Okay. I don't have fancy slides. I don't have enough time. I'm sorry, guys. But one thing I looked at with it being a decentralized effort is that we do have a community outreach person in each business area, which is very key. Initially, I thought centralizing the volunteer program would be the best thing to do it, but to be honest with you, we're better off as a grassroots organization as far as volunteer program. Having a community outreach person in each of the business units. We have 4 business units, each have a community outreach person. We have 18 regional community networks. We also have a diversity group. We have leadership development programs, a finance leadership development program. And one thing I've learned in the first 6 months is you need to empower these groups, because each of these groups, they want to have their own volunteer program. They have different interests than the people at corporate headquarters versus the aeronautics group or the older volunteers. And the first thing we had to do was just really empower them and let them come up with their own initiatives. And they felt that was more effective versus trying to feed them certain volunteer opportunities. And the sexy thing right now is to come up with a signature cause for your corporation. And we want to move towards that right now, but right now we're leaning towards open choice, keeping it up for employees to have their option of where they want to volunteer, because we want to align what we offer with their interests. And then also centralizing the community involvement website, which we just launched this week. I spent the last 6 months doing that. We use cyber grants, and what I found was important is that what our nonprofit should go after, what volunteer opportunities. And what we try to stay away from is one-off opportunities, because I really think it's important to deepen a relationship with certain nonprofits and have year-round engagement rather than just go build a playground for one day and then you're done with the organization. But multiple opportunities so they can deepen the relationships. Employees want to deepen the relationships with certain organizations, so I found that was very important for certain employees as well. Moving forward, to give you a little highlights of some of our volunteers. We have our employees volunteered over 1 million hours for the 7 consecutive years. That's one of our main metrics. Our CEO, being one of the largest defense contractors, we really have to really express the character of our company, and he's really proud to say that constantly our employees are contributing 1 million hours each year. Over 3,500 employees qualify for President Obama's presidential awards. It's any volunteer that's volunteered over 100 hours per year. Again, it's their choice, it's their interest, and we want to leave that open for them as well. We have our 100th year centennial celebration. The 2 companies were formed. We had Martin Marietta, and then we also have Lockheed, which was established in 1912. They merged in 1995. So this would be our 100th year centennial celebration. So what we're going to do is we're going to track 100 community outreach activities. We do a lot more as an organization, but we feel it's really important that we really label 100 activities that's going to have measurable impacts. We try to set parameters, and we also try to align it with, I use a lot of data. I work with America's Charities with our employee giving campaign, and one thing I've noticed is that we weren't using the data effectively, the employee giving data and our volunteer data. Right now we're tracking where our employees, it's not inclusive, they give this information voluntarily, but we use the data of where they're volunteering at, how many hours at certain organizations. And we also use the employee giving data campaign to find out where our employees are given, so we can kind of align volunteer opportunities and where they're giving their money, where their interests, if it's American Cancer Society, if it's American Diabetes. We try to align volunteer opportunity that's going to align with where they're giving the most, and that's been very helpful so that we know that we're aligning their interests. Our signature program right now is USO, obviously dealing with the military. We take pride in really giving back to the veterans. Before we're spending a lot of money on capital campaigns, and it didn't do anything for the employees at all. For example, at the National Air and Space Museum, we have the Lockheed Martin IMAX Theater, but we're giving them a pretty large amount just to have the name up there, but we weren't engaging employees. Employees, like I see our name there, but what does that do for us as employees? So we, coming from the nonprofit side, I think that's the biggest advantage, is that I kind of can see, how we can really push the nonprofits to come more, because before slapping a name on, if you put your name next to ours, it's a done deal, that's it. But now I think coming from the nonprofit side, we're able to challenge more nonprofits, say, what's the return on investment, what are the measurable impacts? I need that data, so those are the type of things that our employees want to see. in educating employees year-round. So for an example, with the National Air and Space Museum, not only are we a sponsor of the IMAX Theater, but we also have space days throughout the year where we have exhibits, we engage our employees, we're developing the next generation of engineers, because 70% of our employees are engineers, so they kind of want to, that's their interest, and they want to develop the next. So we're looking at spark.com as far as working with Project Lead the Way and different engineers in the classroom, the robotic organizations, and we're also doing 3 space days at the National Air and Space Museum. Another thing we're doing with an example of engaging our employees and aligned with with our focus area, which is dealing with military, is the USO is one of our bigger partners out there. For an example, I know it's kind of controversial, but we've been sponsored for Tiger Woods AT&T National Tournament. But it's more than that, though. It's a great opportunity because not only are we a sponsor for the golf tournament, but we also set up a military pavilion at the tournament where we invite 30,000 military veterans, men and women, to come. Give them free foods, air conditioning. They can hang out with all the golfers. We also designate a certain amount to caddy for the golfers at the 17th hole. So we engage several military organizations. We engage about 200 Lockheed Martin employees. And then we also have a USO tent at the tournament where fans of the golf tournament can come in. Our goal is to package 10,000 care packages for deployed men and women. So it's not only engaging our employees, but also using our sponsorship to our advantage to have the golf fans come and volunteer as well. So engaging multiple partners like the Tiger Woods Foundation, the USO, and then having our employees available. So they're starting to see that where we're using our money for sponsorship opportunities, for capital campaigns. We're trying to open that up more for volunteers to be more engaged, employees to be engaged, and deepening the relationship year-round. And so that's just one example. I think all in all, we've had a relationship with USO since 2004. Our biggest event is the stuffing package events, and we've packed over 280,000 packages as well, too. Okay. And then with the National AT&T Tournament. And just to give you an example, we can show the video. We have a choice. Yeah. And these are just some pictures from Space Day. And I'm going to give you a video. Toys for Tots is one of our big campaigns right here, one of our larger partners. And this is now in Dallas-Fort Worth, in our aeronautics division.
We're at the mercy of the water as well. Just would like to say, Tracy, Sheila, and John, you've done a great job.
This is one of our planes. It's a C-130J airplane. We call it the Fat Albert.
Nickname Fat Albert is bringing Christmas just the same. Nearly $20,000 worth of toys donated by Lockheed Martin employees are being delivered to needy families and their children all across the Gulf Coast. These are just some of the gifts being distributed by Toys for Tots nationwide.
Sailors and Marines bring hope and relief from suffering for thousands of people around the world. Today, you see what happens when that force for good is deployed here at home.
Fat Albert's journey began in Marietta when employee-donated toys were wrapped in 2 huge pallets and loaded onto the plane. It then stopped at Fort Worth for another pickup before heading to New Orleans.
We're very proud of the products that we make, and one of those is right behind us. I never thought I'd see it used as a toy swing, but that's good use.
I'm so proud to be a member of the aeronautics team today. This truly is an amazing team, not only in the Lockheed Martin family, but in our extended warfighter and customer community. And today we celebrate that family by also remembering our community and those in need around us.
Lockheed Martin employees have donated toys to the charity in the past, but this is the first year Fat Albert was enlisted to help deliver.
So it just gives you an example of how we partner with, stay within our focus area, engage in our employees, and then even use some of our products.
Great. It's a little intimidating. I don't know how many of us have military aircraft to our CSR program, but any questions?
Just a quick one on the plane. Did Lockheed sponsor the cost of get in that plane to deliver them, or was it like a fundraise thing?
No, we sponsor.
Okay.
And you do the space day. Is it outside schools that are like that?
Yes, outside schools, boys and girls clubs, we engage multiple partners.
Anyone else? We wrap up at 3:30. Yep. All right. Okay, here we go. On to spring.
Airplanes, toys, and here I go. My name is Spring Lacy. My official title is Vice President of Employee Engagement and Volunteerism at JPMorgan Chase. And my team and I are responsible for, the way I put it, offering the employees opportunities on behalf of the company to give, whether it's their time or their money. And that's everything from our employee giving campaign to disaster relief to volunteerism, volunteer grants, dollars for doors, any opportunity that the bank gives our employees to give back. So Mike Karen, who we all heard speak at lunch, is the leader, our fearless leader of our team. And he just giggled.
It was fear.
So I joined.
Say Spring, yours is kind of set up so you can zoom in on some of your bullets.
I'll just dance with it.
All right.
I'm good. So Mike and I joined JPMorgan Chase in 2008, and prior to us joining the bank and the banks, because we are at this point a big bank that's been a merger of many banks along the way, has always had a rich, deep culture of volunteerism. When we joined, unfortunately, there was no centralized program around volunteerism, but there was a ton of it going on, kind of bubbling right beneath the surface. And really, we came in, and our job was to create a global strategy around volunteerism and to roll that out across all locations. And so a key component of that strategy was creating a volunteer leadership group structure. And so we have a team of 5.5 staff members who are responsible for creating volunteer opportunities for 300,000 employees globally, right? And the only way that we could do that from a real practical perspective is to engage our employees who are out in the market as volunteer leaders to actually do come up with the strategy around how they want to get involved locally, decide how they want to engage their leadership, how they want to communicate that, what projects they want to do, what local organizations they want to engage with. And once they come up with that strategy through a business plan process that we have and that we run, they are the ones out there doing the projects. And so we really are the ones that provide consulting and expertise and resources to our teams out in the field. In 2008, that didn't exist at all. And today, and last year, in 2011, those volunteer leadership groups led over 1,800 volunteer projects across the globe. And so we started out here in the United States, and now we have teams in EMEA, Asia Pacific. We're launching into Latin America this year. And so we fortunately have moved from going out to the field and sitting in a room of naysayers and trying to sell them on the idea of good works and volunteerism to being victims of our own success, and that we sit at work every day trying to figure out how do we now meet the demand, because now we're getting calls from across the globe because people really want to get involved with this. And so we've engaged a ton of employees all across the globe, but as we continue to expand our programs and really figure out how we get more people engaged, one of the key questions that we have to ask ourselves is, how do we engage people that we're not already engaging, right? So we count the number of people who volunteer, and then we look at the fact that in some of our markets, we get the same people volunteering over and over again, right? And so one of the ways that we have addressed that is to recognize the diversity amongst our employees. We have call center employees, we have operations center staff, we have operations centers that are 24-hour shops. We have branch employees, and so all the Chase branches across the country that hopefully you bank with. It offers a different challenge. It's much different to create volunteer activities to engage those employees as it is to engage perhaps those like me who sit at a desk kind of 40 hours a week in a more corporate setting. Very long hours, everyone's busy. And another challenge is we have some employees who don't have any access to email or internet at work, right? And so we're trying to provide opportunities that engage all of our employees, considering all of the diverse interests and special needs of our employees in terms of their ability to engage and the times that they're able to engage. Oh, this is where we're supposed to dance with it. So we are talking to Spark, we're working with World Vision, we have created some key relationships with organizations who are able to bring volunteerism to our employees. One of the ones that has worked really well, and I actually was a tutor myself, is working with an organization based out of Chicago called Innovations for Learning. They have a broader program in terms of using technology in education, but one of their key programs is this program that allows employees or people to volunteer from where they are. All you need is a phone and an internet access. In 2010, we started this work in Chicago, and then it was just such a tremendous success with over 300 employees participating the first year. Then we expanded it to Detroit, Miami, and New York, and then additionally expanded it to Washington, D.C. Interesting thing about that expansion is that we don't have a huge employee base in Washington, D.C., but we do in Delaware. So our Delaware employees actually tutor the students who sit in Washington, D.C. So by the end of last year, we had over 500 employees participate, and those employees have provided just over $22,000, almost $23,000 of volunteer service through this virtual volunteering program. And we'll continue to expand. Innovations for Learning is looking to expand their programs to other markets, and we have lots of markets where employees are asking us for this, right? We put a story about this on our company homepage, and we get calls saying, when are you bringing that to us? And so we're going to work side by side with them to not only assist with their expansion, but to also use that expansion to engage more of our employees across markets. And I'm dancing. And so how does this work? So tutors commit to one 30-minute session per week for the duration of the school year with a particular student. You sign up for the same 30 minutes every week. It's an online interface that faces tutors. You go on, you find your slot that works for your schedule. You sign up for your 30 minutes, that's your 30 minutes. You can put it on your calendar and lock it down as a recurring event so that people know not to bother you during that time. We have some tutors who sit in cubicles who made signs up, tutoring in progress, and their colleagues learn that don't mess with her in her 30 minutes because she's reading and helping a student who needs her help. It also is not internal, right? And so some of our employees who might work in call centers or work in branches can schedule this when perhaps they're home, right? Or they can do it from their iPads. You don't have to be in a particular location to participate. So you log on to the computer, it's all secure. You call up the telephone number for the classroom, the phone rings in the classroom. It's funny because the classroom that where my student was last year, they had one person who, it was her responsibility. She wasn't a tutored student, but it was her responsibility to be the phone answer, and she had a script, and every time she answered the phone, she answered the phone the very same way. And we kind of giggled. I'm like, I'm here for my tutoring session, and she very politely told you to hold on. She went and got your student, came back to the phone. And from your computer, you're seeing exactly what the student's seeing in the classroom, and you're controlling the screen. So you know that your student's not over there flipping to the internet or doing anything else they're not supposed to be doing because you're controlling what they see, you're flipping the pages. They have reading games like Hangman and based on different keywords that are in the story, you're controlling that. And it's interactive with teachers also. There's an opportunity where you can leave notes for teachers. So if you had a particularly good session, or if your student seemed not too engaged and you want to just let the teacher know, there's an opportunity to leave notes and exchange information with the teacher. So it's very interactive. And then at the end of the school year, most schools have end-of-year parties where you actually meet the student you've been talking to all year round. And it's very interesting. You're talking about first graders, and so it is a bit of a challenge to keep a first grader engaged by telephone when you're not in front of them, but they get used to it. When you first start, it's awkward for you and it's awkward for them. You're kind of like, what do you want to do? And they're like, what was my guy? The wrestling. It's a WWF. And I'm like, oh, that's fun. What'd you do this weekend? Oh, you karate chopped your brother. Okay, well, let's get into the story today. And then they get curious about who you are because it's interesting. You're always wondering who this person is on the other screen. So it's like, well, what do you do? Do you have a dog? And you're like, I happen to have a dog, but like, why that question, right? And my student kept going, how old are you? And I would make jokes and just avoid his question. So it became kind of our ongoing joke. Like, I'd be like, hey, how are you? You ready to get started reading? Yeah, but how old are you? And I'd be like, older than you. Are you 50? Not 50 yet. So it was great to be able to meet him at the end of the year. We go to the school, the tutors all come together with the students, and you not only meet the students, you meet all of the students not only meet the person you tutor, but all the students in the class. There's only a few students in the class who end up getting assigned to tutors. And everyone knows you, whether you tutor them or not, right? Oh, you're the tutor, I know you call in, or you're the one who answered the phone. And so it's a very cool experience. I was skeptical at first, so I'm like, how much can I really connect with a 6-year-old on the phone 30 minutes a week? But you really create a bond with the student, and the teachers and principals have great feedback to share about the improvement that their students make. And some feedback specifically on students who have English as their second language. So not only is it about literacy, but it's about their language development.
Just going to interrupt, we only have about 6 minutes left, but it is very moving to see what she's describing. And if you Google on YouTube Innovations for Learning, you can actually see what she's talking about. These kids are like jumping out of their clothes, like they're just so giddy with excitement to see their mentors. It's pretty cool.
And so you can see the first pictures, it's a computer, they're the kids in the class. This is Diane, she's one of our tutors out of Chicago. That was at the end of year party, so some of the tutors don't even know what this setup is like, so they get there and they're like, oh, that's the headset, that's how it works. It kind of brings it all to life, and then they do reading days, and that, again, a couple pictures of our end of year parties. Some of our quotes from the employees, again, people really, really love this program. It's convenient. If people aren't available for their 30-minute slot, you can go on the system and reschedule it. They prefer you to reschedule than to cancel, because students start looking for you to call, and you don't want to disappoint them by not having their tutoring sessions in any given week. I could go on forever.
Well, a couple of things. The kids that she's working with, the top percentage, I forget what it is, they're doing exceptionally well. Okay, they spend time to make sure that they continue to do exceptionally well. There's a group near the bottom, they need a lot of extra work, so that ties into the teacher. So the group that they work with is basically, and they do not get the attention to make sure that they can kind of get, so this program steps right into that gap in a very meaningful way. These kids, the entire setup is magical to them, they love it, and it's very, very productive and successful. In fact, you just had a write-up in Wall Street Journal about it a few weeks ago, right?
Yep, the Chicago Tribune. It's been in a couple places. And I know we're quite on time, but quickly about challenges. We had no challenge recruiting employees. We put these things on our system and people sign up immediately. People are very excited about this, and word has begun to spread. Innovations for Learning, it's great to work with. They're very ambitious. They get your people trained. They get you the information you need, your credentials to get signed up. Our biggest challenge was around technology, right? And it wasn't necessarily Innovations for Learning, but it's a particular school. Some schools are old, some schools have very slow wireless, and so the screen is skipping, you're trying to flip pages and it's not quite working. IFL has been working with them to actually just replace their routers, right? If your wireless router is bad, we'll offer the school another one in order for this program to work. And so it's gotten better, but I'd say that was our biggest challenge.
Okay, good. Last questions.
Spring, do you have participation from your branch locations?
Yes.
On those employees that you said weren't coming to computer all day, are they participating from home?
Both, right? So it's all, even if you don't have access to a computer for your job, like if you're a teller, for instance, there are computers in a branch, right? And if you know you're going to have 30 minutes every Friday at 11:30 where you need to tutor, people have been able to make that arrangement with their manager to get that access. But our operations center employees participate, our branch employees participate all across the board.
What type of training do you go through to participate in the program? Is there something that you have to do online, or do you have to go somewhere in person? Or?
It's a 45-minute telephone and PowerPoint deck training that IFL does. And it's essentially how to navigate the system and how not to be uncomfortable having a conversation on the phone with a 6-year-old.
Is that one-on-one with the person in IFL?
We do them in groups.
Okay.
We'll do 50 people on the phone, and you're kind of listening and going through. And after the training, that's when you get your credentials and you log onto the system and begin your tutoring.
Do you adapt the whole classroom, or is the organization kind of assigning you randomly to a school that needs you?
The organization goes out and develops relationships and recruits schools and lets us know we have 20 schools and so we need 100 volunteers. Okay. And so we will have the entire school, and as Chris mentioned, you're only going to get a couple students in each classroom because you're really getting that middle level. And Amy here works for JPMorgan and was a tutor last year. So
if I could just hijack this for just a quick second, just we've been talking all the last couple of days about engaging employees that might not go onto the volunteer website or may not really get involved a lot of times. And even just from my participation in the program, you're wearing your headset at your cube and you're talking to a 6-year-old on the phone and telling them to sound out letters, and just people walking by you are like, oh, what is she doing? They get intrigued, and it's it's really amazing to me. Just in our before I started with the philanthropy group, I worked in a group of about 50 people, and I was the only one doing it. By the time I left, there were about 10 people that were participating in the program, just from word of mouth, hearing you talk to a 5-year-old on the phone and hearing, oh, it's only 30 minutes, oh, I could do that. So definitely something to get people engaged that may not really.
Absolutely. I think it's a brilliant way to introduce people who feel they're too busy. Thank you. That's perfect.
Logistically, how do you handle the registration? Do they register with their site or on your site?
We have a site where people sign up to volunteer. So if we have one posting for New York, we need 100 volunteers to participate in IFL. 100 people sign up. Those names we send to IFL, and they set up the training. They're often 40 or 50 people, but they'll have a series of training days, right? Our point is to be as flexible as possible. You have to go to training before you start. Here's the next 5 dates. Sign up for one of them. And then once they sign up, they can start tutoring.
Yeah.
And coming from DC, you said they have it in Washington, right?
Yes.
And if you don't have a volunteer tracking system, could individuals just go straight to the organization and sign? I mean, it makes it difficult
Mike,
to.
do you know if they do one-on-one or if they only work with corporations to do these large groups?
Right now, it's large groups, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I thought so.
Do you see the employees have to sign up for a school year, correct?
Yep.
Does IFL do any metrics in terms of measuring the student before or after, or like do
They have a whole host, because as I mentioned, IFL, their work this is just one component of a much broader work that they do around students and technology and learning. And they have a whole host of information. Their website, actually, there's a lot of information on their website about kind of measurement, how they measure this program, why they know it's a success. All that stuff is on the website, so that's great reading.
And how much does it cost?
Good question. Mike. I don't remember. Mike was involved in this.
Mike, how much does it cost?
How much
yeah.
does it cost?
Oh, it's a bargain. No, it comes out roughly to about $40 per child.
Which is ridiculous. And I told Dan that. I said, that's a bank. Charge them $4,000 a person. But anyways.
Well, we appreciate that.
I'm working against it. Anyways.
To be fair, I mean, with Innovations for Learning, JPMorgan Chase actually was a seed investor in their work back 10 years ago and continues to invest. So they're not giving us a hometown discount, they're just passing along the price.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but it is, for companies that want to do it, and you're looking for an affordable, put-together thing that creates high impact and this viral engagement thing, because people walk by and go, what are you doing? And people feel really good about it. You hang up the phone after 30 minutes, you like yourself just a little bit more, don't you? When you like yourself more, you treat other people better. Have you ever noticed that? When you have a good hair day and you stop, you're a nicer person. So, you want a better work environment, that's what we need. Thank you so much for this. We'll be right back.